The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's. They are considered thought crime in all jurisdictions, so consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to kick your ass. Put out those hands and get ready to choke them with the truth, cock boys and girls. Time once again for the Sunday sermon. Been an interesting couple of days, people. We got a lot of good stuff to go over. We're going deep today. Deep. All together with the drum roll. Here we go. I love that, man. That's my jam. A little bit of Red Desert from Minneapolis, Minnesota. The city that we are going to be able to see in flames once again, soon and very soon. We'll get into a little bit of that. We got a little bit heavier to cover, man. It's been an interesting couple of days. So I'm just going to leave that. We got all the usual suspects on board early, and I'm happy to see you guys here. We got on, of course, brother Jimmy Hazelwood actually made it before showtime, so that's up first. Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm, on board. Always good to see you, man. We got brother Ryan Jenkins. Appreciate the help that was extended, my friend. I mean, from day one, but we're going to get into all that. As I said, we got Hazelwood on board. We got Joel. We got Emmy. And, of course, Roman from Opium Tales. And as he's giving you the heads up, remember, guys, if you dig what I got going on, I give you the outro at the end of every podcast, but make sure you give it a like and a share. Helps bump us up in the algorithm. I have no fucking idea what an algorithm is. I have a vague concept of what it does, but that's about the extent of it. What do you say, man? We give it a little shot of liquid enthusiasm. Let's get this thing on the road. What do you say, man? Feed it right on out. Yeah, the background has changed a little bit. Hello, Ariella. Aaron on board as well. Yes, Emmy, that was a very astute observation. We're going to cover exactly why that background has changed. We are in a new location. And it's been a long, strange journey getting here. I'm going to go ahead and fade the bumper music out. I'm still getting used to the acoustics of this new home of the foreseeable future right now. We're going to fade it out. Once again, guys, the bumper music, Red Desert, Older, No Wiser. Some really good guys from Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a damn shame what has already happened to their city. And even more shameful that I think we're going to get to see a repeat performance of that. But before we get into any of that, let me go ahead and give the shout outs, first of all, to our sponsors, the Viking brothers, Casey and Dusty Tellison at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. They are out and about again, so you can find them out there. And if you're in the Spokane area, find them wherever they are. Follow them on Facebook, all their social media feeds, and check out Dusty's little video one-offs. He's been making those out in the shop. He did a Kermit the Frog bit this week that was just absolutely freaking hilarious. Yes, Mike and Stan, absolutely. Hit me up afterwards and we'll get that squared away. And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you on that, but I'm about to explain why. And of course, another sponsor shout out that I want to give to not just a sponsor, but a good friend of mine who also bailed my ass out of a jam. A couple of people on the board today that were instrumental in bailing me out of that jam, and that is Roman at opiumtales.com. Roman is one of my oldest and dearest friends. You can check him out at opiumtales.com. I think you can still check him out on the Twitter feed. Roman, can you hit me up? Let me know if Jack Boots Dorsey is like banned you from Twitter. But they are the erotic pinups and portraits people. He does some really good artwork, and his commentary is, as always, testosterone driven. And we all know how we feel about that around here. So it's a damn good thing. By the way, if I'm not giving, you got booted. You know the irony of that, but I can't share without giving away your secret superhero identity. So, wow. By the way, if I don't give anybody a specific shout out, it's because I'm seeing you by your log on name. I got two. Let me see. I got two mics. I've got. Joey is Joey. Actually, no, I have two Joeys now. Just kind of give it a little, hey, this is me. If I don't give you a specific shout out, but I appreciate every one of you guys being here as always. Brother Jude just jumping on board as well. So here's the story for the past couple of days and the reason for the change of scenery. I am in a little place just north of Des Moines, Iowa, at an undisclosed extended stay location. Ground is going to be what you're going to see every Sunday for the foreseeable future. Actually, we may change it up with some pipe and drape banners hanging in the background, but this is basically how it's going to roll. What the hell would you be doing in corn country, Reverend? Well, I'm so glad you asked. As of tomorrow, I'll show up for orientation. The long mission has finally come to fruition. Oh, look, I'm a poet and didn't realize it. This journey that I have been on has come to fruition, and the Reverend has a crane seat. Boom. So I'm going in for orientation tomorrow. Now, the journey here, go ahead and catch you guys up to speed, was interesting. You guys are familiar with Black Betty, my beloved Subaru, who has served me without incident up until a couple of days ago. And in a little village, I guess would probably be the best way to put it, called Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, about an hour south of Oklahoma City. The transmission decided to say, no more, bink. And that was that. So I had to juggle a whole lot of things and call in a couple of favors to get everything facilitated for a rental car to get my ass up here. A lot of people would have either given up or called the guys up and said, hey, it might be a week, this kind of thing. I'm not wired like that. It's like, nope, fuck it. I gave my word. We're going to be there Monday, period, and end of statement, done. So for Ryan and for Roman, the two guys that came through for me in a pinch, I definitely appreciate the hand. And I also want to give a shout out to my beloved wife, Charlie, for coming through in a pinch and getting everything coordinated as we're shifting on the fly, trying to take care of business. But long story short, I'm here. I am in Iowa. The orientation for the job kicks off tomorrow, and this is where I'm going to be for the information that I have is about 6 to 8 months. And I'm digging the town, and I'm digging being here, and I'm digging finally being in a seat. I'm digging finally seeing the fruits of my efforts and this whole long journey that I've been on, not having seen my own home for coming up on a year now, and all the things that have gone into this. And for Brother Ryan, who set me off on this journey and has been my support and my coach, and occasionally my therapist through this entire thing. And for all of you guys that have encouraged me and stayed with me and followed this whole journey, man, it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. Of course, this is just another fork in the road. You know what I mean? We're here and we're in it, and now the mission and the adventure continues. It's just got a little bit of a different connotation now, but it feels pretty good to be at this point, and it feels really good to be sitting here in Iowa when, just a couple of days ago, I was literally by the side of the interstate in the middle of rural Oklahoma with, with limited resources, shall we say. So I get by with a little help from my friends. Some good people came through for me, and I love you guys, and I appreciate you, man. So thank you for that. So here's the significance of the day. Not today, but tomorrow in particular. I'm going to throw in a little music over this, and because the music industry lost somebody. Granted, it may not have been directly related to addiction, but but it definitely, the physical consequences of that addiction certainly didn't help any. But rapper DMX passed away this week. Consequences of a heart attack. I'm just going to drop this on because this is actually one of my favorite tracks, a track called Slippin'. To live is to suffer. To survive, well, is to find meaning in the suffering. That's right. Tear shit up, I'm stuck. Got to get up. Tear shit up. I've been through bad different pages, like Mason, the time I went. Yeah. Now I know happy day, not far away. Long enough, I lived long enough to see my kids. Not really big hip hop guy, not really big hip hop and rap guy, but DMX, man. It's powerful stuff, and the guy lived a very interesting life. I found a lot of things to reflect on, watching his cycle and stuff. This track in particular, man, Slipping, the whole vibe of this, man, it's just the overwhelming weight sometimes of the life that we live, and all the surroundings trying to beat us down. And sometimes you feel like it, yeah, man, and sometimes you catch yourself backsliding into old habits and old ways of thinking, not necessarily old habits. I want to be specific about that. The significance of all this, why it's coming up and why this in particular has got me reflective is tomorrow is April the 12th. April the 12th of 1997 was the last time that I put and it was the last time that I put a needle in my arm and dropped fucking dead in my living room for what would be the seventh time on that long fucking run. I was down to I walk around at about 220. By the end of my habit, I was weighing about 148. Yeah, I was weighing about 148, and the only things I had to my name when I got off the shit, the only things I had to my name, I had the clothes on my back, a milk crate full of books, and a handgun. And as of tomorrow, it'll be 24 years. And in the 24 years of that transition from being at the bottom, slipping, falling, got to get up. I came out of the hole, and now it's 24 years later. I am a homeowner. Yeah, I am a functional, clean, but not necessarily sober citizen. And I still have every one of the books in that gun to this day. Yeah, Mike. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you were right there alongside that in the trenches, man. I know. The anniversary of Hal's death coming up, man. There was a lot of, all the stories, and you were there for 2/3 of them. But yeah, it's you get reflective on stuff like that. Every year I get a little bit reflective, but I think the way everything came together this year has got me a little more reflective than usual because it's another big pinnacle. It's another step, even the people that, first of all, man, out of every 100 addicts, and this is a stat, you can fact check me on it, but a couple of sources, it's iffy on the source, but the general understanding is that out of every 100 addicts that quit, the number that make it to the 3-year mark without a relapse, out of every 100, what would you guess? Take a guess. Out of 100, how many make it to the 3-year mark without a relapse? 3 years. Anybody want to take a guess? Somebody pop on? Nothing? Joel, you were there for some of those stories too, my friend. We're not going to talk about cheap motels on the Southwest Freeway, are we? But yeah, out of every 100 that quit, three, close, Mike. 3 make it to the 3-year mark. 3% make it to the 3-year mark without a relapse. And here I am on year 24. I refer to myself as clean, but not necessarily sober, which is to say that I don't do the hard shit. You guys know where I'm at with regards to psychedelics for consciousness expansion, but even that is very, very rare, and it's done with an intent and purpose. I have one drink a year. I have a White Russian on New Year's Eve because it's tradition. That is the extent of my alcohol consumption. If on a Washington winter morning, the hip is screaming at me, I am not above eating a fucking Percocet or 5. But at the end of the day, I'm not that guy that I was 24 years ago. And I haven't been on the hard shit for 24 years. So it's, people celebrate their birthday. I think this is a rebirth day. So I got reflective on that. And, DMX kicking off this week got me thinking about it. And not just DMX. And, Ryan, I understand what you're saying about, the animal abuse and stuff like that. And a lot of people have voiced that concern. What I'm looking at is the totality of it. No one is defined by any one facet of their personality. No one is defined by any one action. If people were to take the same tack with me, they'd be like, hey, fuck that motherfucker. He put hands to a woman. I'm not proud of that, but I don't shy away from any of the things that I've fucking done. I'm brutally honest about that. But I've done things like that. I have robbed people under very inauspicious circumstances. I was not above putting a gun in somebody's mouth if I needed to get something done. You're dealing with you're dealing with someone who is not that person. I look back at that person and I look at the things that person did. And the toughest part of that is embracing. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, that was you. That demon is still in here. It's still in there. You say that you fight it every day, and you do. You do fight it every day, but the fight does get easier the further you get away from it. It's like I don't think about it. I don't, I can see IV drug use in movies and stuff. And that used to be like, oh, too much, if I see a particularly graphic, IV injection scene in a movie or something, I get a little, but it's not like I don't have to leave the room, like once upon a time. I don't have to get up and leave. It gets easier, but yeah, man, repeated action with no remorse. Agreed. But that's not where we're going with the discussion. Most people will die in it, or they will live the rest of their life in it. They will end up in prison or dead, or just repeating the same behavior. Johansson from the New York Dolls, man, he said, the thing about being a junkie is like Groundhog Day. Every day is exactly the same. The landscape is exactly the same. Nothing changes. I've often said that the one good thing about being a junkie is you never have to worry about what am I going to do today. You know what you're going to do today. You're going to get fucking loaded. Everything between now and then is just a method. It's a means to that fucking end. So yeah, for you guys that are out there and, maybe slipping, falling, can't get up. I think the reason why I feel so moved by that fucking track is just like, look, man, no matter what the struggle is, you've got to get past it. And if I can conquer this and walk away from that for 24 years, what the hell day-to-day thing are you going to throw at me that's going to cripple me? Even all the physical maladies that I just went through with the procedures and everything for the back is just like, okay, dude, you've been worse. But I just wish everybody out there who might be struggling with it, man, to find the strength to walk away from, or at least find the strength to reach out to someone and get on that track. The first year, I got to warn you, is just crawling out of the hole. That's the first year. You're just crawling out of the hole. That's why a lot of people fail, because they've been at it for years, and then they stop, and they think, well, fuck, man, I'm not doing dope anymore. Everything should be fine. No. You just spent however many years fucking alienating everyone around you, losing all of your physical property, destroying your reputation, destroying your physicality. You know, you spent a long time digging that fucking hole, and you think, oh, well, I'm done now. You just jump up. Nope, it's not how it works. And a lot of people 6 months in will say, okay, fuck it, I'm done, you know, and go back to it. Here's the great thing, and I want to impart this not just to people that might be struggling with addiction, but just sort of as a metaphor for life. When I had, and one day I may tell the whole story of that 72-hour period. There was a 72-hour period and just a cascading convergence of crises that all happened within that 72 hours that left me at one point dead in my living room, left a friend of mine on his way to the penitentiary. It was chaos. It was 72 hours of chaos. And basically the gods looked at me and they were like, all right, fucker, here's what's up. You want dead? We got it for you. You want prison? Oh, we got that for you all day long. Or you could pull your head out of your ass and figure out a way to dig yourself out of this hole. And what I decided to do, and this is now stretched into 24 years, but when I made the decision, I was like, okay, I cannot do this anymore. I thought about one thing, and that is the dope will always be there. The dope is always going to be there. It's not going anywhere. It's there, and it never sleeps. It's there. So I made the decision, and I fixed that point in my head. I was like, hey, I'm going to do something different for 6 months. I marked the calendar, and I said, we're going to go 6 months. I am going to not get loaded. I'm going to not do all this fucked up, stupid shit. I'm going to focus on getting fucking gainful employment, pulling my life together, getting back into, working out and all these other things. And if in 6 months my life is not measurably better, I can always go back to the dough. That's not going anywhere. Here we are 24 years later. So apparently my life is gradually but measurably better. You can take from that a lesson that can apply to all facets of your life. Maybe it's not something as heavy as being a dope fiend, but say you are at a point of your life where you're not content with where you are, like where I was when I started this journey to becoming a crane operator. I wasn't happy with where my life was. Doing the titty bar DJ thing wasn't getting it for me. Being a strength coach and all the other things, and combatives instructor and all the other things that I did was a hell of a lot harder to pull off in a market like Spokane than it was in a place like Houston. And I was not going back to Houston. And then Ryan opened the door for me and facilitated me taking that first step on that journey. He swung some doors open for me. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. And in 6 months, if my life is not measurably better, guess what? The titty bar is always going to be there. Same facet. If there's something in your life that is no longer serving an interest toward making your life better or making you better as a person, walk away from it. Give it 6 months. Mark it on your calendar. Put up a dry erase board, whatever the fuck you have to do, and just say, okay, 6 months. Because I promise you, those destructive behavior patterns are those lifestyle adjustments and things, the things that are doing you wrong or preventing you from doing yourself a point. They're always going to be there. And if in 6 months your life isn't better, you can always go back to the bullshit. It'll be there. So good luck. And I'm sorry I missed this whole conversation over here in the sidebar, but for all the people that have been through it and are conversing over here, please continue that conversation. Be that shoulder for each other. So 24 years ago, I said 6 months and we'll see where it goes. And clearly it went well. And the fact that this new gig started, because originally it was supposed to be Wednesday, and they said, hey man, we got pushed back by a few days. It's going to be bang on this date. The fact that this gig is starting on the 12th of April, you know, the anniversary of me walking away from the bad shit and deciding I want something better for my life, you can't help but feel the hand of divine providence in that. So I feel like the gods favor me on this, and I've got the highest of confidence. And so for everybody who's been a part of this, for everybody who has encouraged me in this mission, for everybody who has been my friend, for those of you who are out there right now, and there are a number of you already on this sidebar and people that'll be looking at it later that were there when I was at my lowest and can look at where I'm at right now. I hope it's a mutually reciprocal juxtaposition. In other words, that you help me find my strength, and I hope that you can find some strength in my example. But just know that I got all the love in the world for all of you guys. And so yeah, got a little reflective, and I just wanted to share that. So a little departure from the usual, little departure from the usual political rant and raving, but sometimes I try to make it personal, because one of the vibes that I want for these things, and what I've done from the beginning, what I want it to be, is we hopefully improve the production value going forward. I want it to feel informal. That's one of the reasons why, you know, at first I was just doing it off a cell phone on this little mount, you know, off to the side doing the Facebook Live stuff. I want this to feel like we're just sitting around having a cup of coffee. You know, caffeinated lemonade, if that's your speed. But I want that. I want that face-to-face interaction. That's the feel that I want from this, that we're having a discussion as friends. So anyway, that's about all that I have to offer on that. But I appreciate you guys who were there, and I appreciate you guys that have been along for the ride. And I love y'all. I love y'all. Oh, there's someone else. there's someone else who was there for some of the worst of it. Yeah, I see you, girl. And all the love in the world. Me and you already know. You already know. I don't have words, but the good thing is that depth of understanding between me and you, girl, is such that no words are necessary. So if you have a hard time talking about it, then just vicariously through the rev. Still love you, lady. You know this. Okay, so how about we move on to something a little more upbeat, like I don't know, political upheaval and impending tyranny. How about that? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there we go. That's a good bring everybody together in a group hug kind of thing. You know, it's like, oh man, I'm kind of tired of talking about all this drug abuse stuff, man. Let's get some, you know, let's all come in for big cuddles and talking about riots and stuff. Do that. Yeah. So, for those of you guys who've been keeping track at home, playing the home version of What Day is the Powder Keg Gonna Find a Spark? Dum, da, da. It's everyone's favorite game show. Roll the dice, Johnny. What does he want? His building got burned down because the cops were defunded. Thanks, Johnny. And we move on to the next round. Yeah. Derek Chauvin trial. You guys been keeping track? There's the old proverb about with friends like this, who needs enemies? Well, with prosecutors like this, who needs a defense? It's been a shit show. It's been an absolute fucking disaster this entire week. And I could post, Biden said, we're getting there, Mike. It's just been one disaster after another for the prosecution. Like literally one prosecution witness fucked up their case so bad that after his testimony, the defense attorney said, we reserve the right to call him as a witness when we present. Again, with prosecutors like this, who needs a defense? In spite of what, and the scary part, because that crybaby Stelter and that Maddow guy and every other CNN, MSNBC commentator, ABC, CBS, NBC, all the major networks, they keep presenting only the bright spots. They are painting an entirely fucked up picture of what's going on. If you listen to the network news coverage and that's all you saw, you would think, my God, Chauvin's up against the ropes. No way this guy walks, which is exactly what they want, because A, they don't want you to know how weak the case is against him, and B, they sort of want what's inevitably going to happen. At this point, the only way, and this is my prediction, and again, I'm big about putting these things on video so you can come back later and go, hey man, no, you were wrong. Hey, right, cool, I'll cop to it. But my prediction right now, if I had to make the call, is that he is going to walk. The only way at this point, with the prosecution having fucked it up this bad, the only way he doesn't walk is if the jurors are already so intimidated at the possibility of what may happen that they vote to convict simply on that. But one way or the other, even if they were to do that, he's got grounds for an appeal. Intent got taken off the table this week completely. So the murder charge is done. That's not going to happen. Manslaughter, maybe. They might be able to stick him with manslaughter. But here's another prediction. Even if they convict him of manslaughter, if he is acquitted of the murder charge, which never should have gone. You guys were watching the sermon when I went over that, when the body cam footage was released. The DA saw that footage. He knew that a murder charge wasn't going to stick, and he charged him with murder anyway. Now, what do you suppose is going to happen? The other prediction that I have is even if they convicted on manslaughter, even if they convicted on murder, I'm going to tell you, they're going to riot anyway. You got a bloodthirsty mob, and bloodthirsty mobs are not really the most easily satiated groups of folks in the world. Then we have the media adding fuel to the fire. I'm hoping, do me a favor, guys, let me know if it's getting choppy, because my Wi-Fi indicator right over here on my display is sort of being iffy. So I don't know exactly how well everything's coming through. So if you guys could chime in and let me know if the video and audio feed are still there, that'd be great. I think we got decent Wi-Fi here. Steve, glad you made it. The media are exacerbating the situation terribly. They are throwing fuel on the racial fire, which, of course, is at the root of all of this. You know, as well as I do, that had this been a white cop and a white suspect, we never would have known anyone's name. Had this been a black cop and a black suspect, we never would have known anyone's name. It is only racial juxtaposition that has brought this thing to a head. And you have people like the founder of Black Lives Matter, who was nice enough to take some of the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been raised for that cause that should have gone back into the community, and bought herself a nice little house in a white neighborhood in Los Angeles. At this point, again, that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. But the media this week tried to convince us, are you ready for this? That today there were going to be White Lives Matter rallies all over the country. Even the Stormfront crowd called bullshit on that. This is absolutely fucking ridiculous, and it's just adding fuel to the fire. But here in Mashable's own article, the article is titled "Anti-Fascist Out, Proud Boys and Neo-Nazi Groups Behind White Lives Matter Rallies." But then you read a little deeper, and what it turns out these people have done is they've laid what's called a honeypot. They basically have started accounts. These are Antifa types that have started accounts to try to bait white supremacists out of the woodwork. Like they'll start accounts like, White Lives Matter, this and that, and they talk all the talk, and they're hoping that some Yahoo is going to get on and be like, yeah, man, all right, yeah, and the FBI uses the same tactic for political militants on both sides of the spectrum. But yeah, the news, rather than look at this and just go, dude, this is nothing, it wasn't anything, it's not going to be anything. They decided to take the story and run with it. So right now, there are people out there allegedly waiting around for huge white supremacist demonstrations all over the country, and I'm like, no, there were demonstrations this week on the other side of the spectrum. And those are going to get worse the closer we get to a verdict. That is one of the things of being here in Idaho. Sorry, Freudian slip, because that's hard. One of the things about being here in Iowa, I had to realistically ask the supervisor a question coming up here. When I was looking for lodging, I was like, listen, I don't want to sound like a fucking weirdo or anything, but I'm watching the Chauvin trial, and I know you guys had some issues last year when all this stuff came down. What parts of town do I need to stay away from? And he was like, no, I don't think that sounds ridiculous at all. He said, in fact, I think that's very fucking prudent. And he gave me the parts of town to stay away from. I'm not going to mention them here because I don't want to disparage anybody, but yeah, I'm not in those parts of town. The fact that here we are in 2021 still having to think about stuff like this is just beyond fucking absurd. And they are waiting for that powder keg. I don't care which side it's on. We know how the media presents it, and we have eyes, and we have critical thinking skills, and we can see who the people are that are legitimately burning down buildings and attacking federal courthouses for 6 months running and taking over entire, 12 square block areas of major cities and declaring it an autonomous zone and not letting cops in or out. The media will play the narrative. The good news about the internet is that we have other sources and we can use them, and we don't have to get brainwashed into that narrative. We see the reality of it, and the reality of it is no matter how this comes out, it ends in violence. So what would be the proper response for a leader who looks at things like that and law-abiding citizens under duress and the threat of violent mobs? Well, a responsible president would jump in and declare that not all constitutional amendments are absolute, and then proceed to give us a diatribe of lies and, complete fabrications, complete falsehoods. And then nominate one of the butchers of Waco to head up the ATF. Joseph Biden, our cadaver in chief, we nominated Chipman to head the AFT. He's had 25 years at the AFT. Yeah, Uh, no cognitive breakdown there, pal. No cognitive breakdown there whatsoever. The fact that he said 4 times in a row AFT instead of ATF, he couldn't get a 3-letter acronym right. But cognitively, he's spot on. That whole thing about his cognitive decay is just completely a right-wing talking point. Treasure Monk, hey, right on. Guys, by the way, my brother Jeff Truitt down there at the bottom, the Treasure Monk, click on his YouTube channel when we're done here with the sermon. He's beyond being a good friend of mine. He's just a damn interesting human being. I don't want to get off too much on a rant there, but check out his channel, man. Treasure Monk, he's a semi-professional treasure hunter by trade, and he does some interesting stuff. Yeah, no, Mike, there was never a doubt that I was going to be bringing this up. So he came down with 6 executive orders, and according to the White House's own release, and I quote, fact sheet, Biden-Harris administration announces initial actions to address the gun violence public health epidemic. Okay, before we even get into it, let's just start right there. Public health epidemic, public health concerns. I have been saying this since the start of the COVID hysteria, that once you have established that we can make exceptions to the law based on public health emergencies, that it was going to be much bigger than that, because anything can be declared a public health menace now. Poverty is a public health concern. Racial inequality is a public health concern. It's issued being press release after press release. Everything can be public health, right out of any sort of legislative regulation or executive regulation, for that matter. Public health. You declare something a public health menace. Well, now we have established it. All of the breaches and power grabs that have been done under the COVID hysteria, under that all-encompassing umbrella of, Father Fauci and the cult of fear. Now that they've gotten people accustomed to that, they can, anything is a public health concern. And now there's precedent. Well, wait, you can't just take that executive action. You can't just take that executive action. This is about gun violence, yes, but now there is a precedent because we were able to do this when it was a public health concern. So words mean things, people, and they play games with this shit. So pay attention. Always pay attention. Mike called it about a year ago. Yes, indeed. And how nice of you to remember. Thanks. Initial actions to address the gun violence public health epidemic. And I'll spare you the long stuff. And we'll just get to the meat of it, which is the executive orders themselves. Order number 1, the Justice Department within 30 days will issue a proposed rule to help stop the proliferation of ghost guns. You guys are familiar with what, actually, my core guys are familiar with what a ghost gun is. Some of the other people watching might not be. Let me tell you what it is and what it isn't. The way that they are making it out is that people are mass producing untraceable firearms and selling it to the cartel of doom, and that mass shootings are happening 6 times a day with untraceable firearms because people are able to 3D print shit out of plastic and now 3D print shit out of metal, and they're buying these things and they're manufacturing, and there's millions of them. This is not the case. What a ghost gun is, and ghost gun is another one of those media buzzwords like assault weapon. You're basically buying you're buying a lower receiver, which is the part that counts as a firearm. You're buying it and it's 80% completed. Like, here it is, but you have to take your own machine tools or drill press or what the hell ever, and we've got to mill this thing, and we've got to drill this thing, and we got about % of it. So when they sell it to you, it doesn't, that lower receiver, which would ordinarily have to be traced, isn't. Okay, how many people are really doing this? I would say it's in the thousands. How many of these have been used in a crime? And when you press them on that, no one's really keeping track of that. Oh, right. So you're just talking out your ass at this point. Because I promise you, if crimes are being out there being committed with these so-called ghost guns, these home builds, trust me, we would hear no end of it. It's their talking point, and the media would be feeding that. But unfortunately for them, their rhetoric doesn't match, the reality. But we've seen that before. This is nothing new. So yeah, ghost guns. Basically, what it amounts to is they're trying to keep you from being a build your own firearm at home. But should you decide at some point that you don't want to comply with the rest of the laws and they lock everything else down. So yeah, ghost guns. Okay, the proliferation of ghost guns, whatever. There's executive order number 1. Executive order number 2, the Justice Department within 60 days will issue a proposed rule to make clear when a device marketed as a stabilizing brace effectively turns a pistol into a short-barreled rifle subject to the requirements of the National Firearms Act. Let me just make a long story short for you. You guys who have been buying these shorties, these Draco AK pistols, these shorty AR pistols, and all these other things, and it's a pistol. It's a pistol. You knew what the fuck you were buying. You knew what you were buying, and you knew that the stabilizing brace was damn well fucking shoulder stock. This was your way. And see, I'm sorry. I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off right here, but sorry. I'm calling it like I fucking see it. You weren't running afoul of the law. You knew that you weren't running afoul of the law. What you were doing was you were avoiding that $200 tax stamp to actually get a short-barreled rifle. That's what you were doing. And you were very crafty about it in the same way that, you were crafty getting a bump stock to avoid, that $200 tax stamp. Here's the thing. Long story short, people, the stabilizer brace thing is going to be shot down by the courts. Pardon the pun. It's going to be shot down by the courts. How do I know this? Well, because Orange Man passed the bump stock ban, and guess what just got shot down in the courts recently? The bump stock ban. The stabilizing brace, it does nothing. It's a cosmetic feature, okay, essentially. It doesn't do anything for genuinely what it's supposedly for, stabilizing a pistol. No, it's for bringing it up to your shoulder and stabilizing it like that, but it's a cosmetic feature. It doesn't affect the function of the weapon. But it's another thing that they can throw out there and make it sound kind of scary. Number 3, the Justice Department within 60 days will publish model red flag legislation for states. Now, what they say about red flag legislation is that it allows family members or law enforcement to petition for a court order temporarily barring people in crisis, their words, not mine, from accessing firearms if they present a danger to themselves or others. How delightfully vague. Family members that are concerned. Oh, like maybe your mother who is estranged, who you don't get along with, and decides to report you to the guys in blue because he's been sounding angry lately and he's been listening to a lot of right-wing talk radio. He's posting these things to Facebook. It's scary. I think he's a danger to himself. Here's the 2 words that are important about red flag laws: ex parte. Red flag laws, they're streamlining, quote unquote, of red flag laws, are going to make it to where you don't have to be present. That they can petition a court without even your knowledge. You could literally be walking around having a day, and your wife, who is planning on leaving you for whatever, or isn't feeling satisfied in the relationship, can go to a court and say he's been making threats. Look at his Facebook posts. They can go and they can petition that court, and the court, without even speaking to you, can drop a little red flag stamp on it, and they can come in and get your guns. And then the burden of proof is on you. You prove to me that you're not a threat to yourself or others, and will possibly entertain the prospect of giving you your guns back. Scary, but again, I think part of it is going to be shot down by the courts, and I think a lot of it is going to come down to states just refusing to enforce. We're going to get to that in a minute, but let me clear this hurdle real quick because we're about 20 minutes in. The administration is investing in evidence-based community violence interventions. It's nothing. It's diverting money to jobs programs. It's diverting money to studies, including this one, another one. The Justice Department will issue an annual report on firearms trafficking. Again, proliferation of ghost guns, yada, yada. All this stuff is nothing. It's all cosmetic shit. Here's the important one. The president will nominate David Chipman to serve as director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. David Chipman was a case officer involved with the case against the surviving Branch Davidians. By default, that makes him one of the butchers of Waco. I'm going to put this out there, and I want everybody to repost it. If you have not seen it yet, you need to see a documentary. It is now on Amazon Prime. If you're a Prime member, it's free. A documentary called Waco, The Rules of Engagement. See that. If you haven't already, do. And when you're done, just remember that the guy who took a part in the case against the surviving Branch Davidians is now nominated to head up the ATF. This man is a lunatic. He is beyond being a gun control advocate, he's a zealot. Is about the best way I could put it. I'm going to see if I can click this link, story from the New York Post that you should read. Let's try that, see if it'll work. Yeah, there it is. Guys, you can go down, you can click on that, copy paste. This guy said that the Branch Davidians used 50 calibers to shoot down 2 choppers during the Waco raid. First of all, no choppers were shot down and no 50 cals were even recovered. This guy knows, I'm not going to belabor the point because it's easier for you to do your own homework on that. This guy's a zealot. He is a zealot. He is a true believer, which is exactly why the administration wants him in this position. He wants a hungry go-getter who is not going to be, hey, let's look out for public safety. He's not in it for public safety. He's in it to take your guns. Period. End of statement. Done. No, Reno is dead, for the record, guys, before that discussion even kicks off. I want you to read through the guy's Twitter feed. I want you to dig deep. Don't just stop with that New York Post article that I posted. I want you to go to his Twitter feed and realize that anything that's still up there is after he literally eliminated tens of thousands of tweets, that got deleted. I say tens of thousands. Okay, it might not have been 10,000, but it definitely was. Thousands of tweets were deleted from his account. Thousands. All right. And what is still up there is some of the stuff that got posted in the New York Post. And it's frightening. It's really, really frightening. And if you are a gun owner, you should be frightened. But getting back to getting reflective on these things, here is what's really indicative of where we are as a country and how transparent it is what they're getting ready to do. Do y'all remember the 94 assault weapons ban? Do you guys remember that? The 1994 assault weapons ban that sunset after 10 years? Here's what I don't remember about that is any state governors having the balls to come out and say, we will not enforce that law. It was a bad law. It was a toothless law where it needed to have teeth, and it was an egregious overreach when it needed to have been restrained. It was a horrible law, and it didn't work. But beyond that, no state governors had the balls to say, we're just not going to enforce that. Not in the Clinton era. They didn't have the balls. But now that Biden has come out and talked about executive orders, and we haven't even gotten to what he really wants, which is, of course, the assault weapons ban, the high-capacity magazine ban, all these things. He hasn't even gotten to that yet. 8 states now have passed laws voiding federal firearms regulations. Across the country, thriving dissatisfaction with U.S. government is prompting a growing spate of bills and state legislatures aimed at defying federal control over firearms, particularly in western and southern states. In Idaho, they announced they passed a law to keep any future federal gun measures from being enforced in the state. Kansas passed a law that federal regulation doesn't apply to guns manufactured in the state, like maybe ghost guns off those 80% lowers. It wouldn't apply to something manufactured in Kansas at all. Wyoming, South Dakota, Arizona are basically Second Amendment sanctuary states. 14 of these type of bills were passed by legislatures in 11 states, mainly in western states: Kansas, Tennessee, Alaska, Montana, Missouri, Oklahoma, and 3 others. Again, opponents say it's not federal gun regulation, that it's unconstitutional, but laws to nullify it. Here's the thing. I will not have that argument put to me by the same people who, for the last 2 decades, basically, or at least the last decade, have insisted that they could refuse to enforce federal immigration law, right? If you're we're just not going to, we don't like that part of the federal law, so we're not going to assist you in enforcing it, and we're not going to allow you to enforce it here. Okay, sauce for the goose, motherfucker. That's cool. If you want to play that game, that's cool. And California, you can deal with all the things that come as a result of that, and you are. But don't turn around and then look at places like Montana and Idaho and Wyoming and say, no, you can't do that. You can't just pick and choose which parts of the law you get to enforce. Well, unfortunately, under nullification, yeah, you can. And they are. And it's creating a divide. And I pondered this week because after I got sidetracked and had to get the rental car, it had already put me the better part of the day behind. So I was like, okay, that's cool. The rest of the day is a write-off. I'm not going to stress myself out. And on the way to Iowa, again, when I broke down, I was about an hour south. It was about an hour south of Oklahoma City. I took it upon myself to go by and see this memorial. That's the monolith from the outside. Reflecting pool and everything on the inside. It's a very heavy thing to behold what happened at the Murrah Federal Building. Now, I'm not going to get into Timothy McVeigh's ideology. That's not the point that I'm going to be making. We're going to hit on that next week on the anniversary of the event itself. I'm just going to concede the official story. Now, I don't believe that. You know I don't believe that. But just conceding for the sake of argument that Timothy McVeigh all by himself pulled off that debacle at the Murrah Federal Building, April the 19th of 1995. I remember the day well. 160-odd people died, including 19 kids. It's tragic. And on this memorial, on this plaque back behind me there, said, let no person leave here without realizing the impact of violence. Here's what they seem to have forgotten, is that the actions that brought us this memorial began 2 years earlier with the actions that brought us this one. I say that not to justify, not to excuse, not to even offer a vague explanation for the violence that took place in either of those locations. But remember, before Waco, all we heard was the media drumbeat about right-wing extremism, right-wing extremism. We must crack down. We must crack down. At that point, they hadn't done anything, but it became the federal drumbeat. And the family of a friend of mine were the first victims of the end result of that drumbeat. And what are we hearing again? And then the second group of people that fell victim to that drumbeat. "88 people, 19 of them kids, were burned alive in their own church in the fucking Texas Hill Country." And 2 years after that, again, conceding the official story, 2 years after that, an explosive device as payback for what had happened at Waco and Ruby Ridge ended the lives of 168 people, 19 of them children. And now, here we are again with that drumbeat, that steady media drumbeat, that incessant push for people with the wrong ideology to be targeted, that consistent push for people with the wrong political affiliation to be surveilled and regulated. That same drumbeat, that same push, that same political climate that made it feasible and, in fact, favorable for the federal government to pull off what happened at Ruby Ridge. The same political climate that made Waco possible for the federal government. That fire is getting fueled again. You guys know where I'm at on this. If violence is brought to my doorstep, it will find me at home. But as a human being, I am begging those in power, those out of power, those who are beating the drums, to come to your senses and take a step back from the brink. Because the stakes are higher now than they have ever been. And you run the risk not only of taking a few lives, you run the risk of tearing apart the political fiber, the will, the heart, and soul of an entire country. I will not shy from it if it comes, but in my heart of hearts, I pray, and in there looking at that memorial. And I wish I could have had you guys in that moment. There was a chorus of women by the reflecting pool, two of them playing harps and the rest of them singing. It's the most beautiful thing, singing this chorus of angels. And I stood there and I let the sound of these voices wash over me. And I looked around at the steel structures that stood for every person that lost their life in that incident. I reflected back on where I was the day that Oklahoma City happened. I'll get more into this next week. I walked across the street. There was a statue of Christ with his head in his hands, and at the bottom, and Jesus wept. But I also had to let the other memories wash over me of the several times that I went up to Waco while the siege was going on, and what an awakening that was for me. And falling to my knees and crying and sobbing like a fucking infant the day that I turned it on. I watched that place go up in flames. We'll get more into that next week. Like I said, this is the short version. These are lives. This is violence. For those of you who are thumping your chest like it's a good thing, we are not the same. For those of you hiding in the shadows because you think it won't find you, we are also not the same. But I pray with everything in me that we can find a voice of reason to bring us back from the brink. We gotta fix this shit, y'all. We gotta fix it. And it starts by not being afraid to use this. Speak. Speak. Reach out. Speak sense. Because it's voices. It's voices that are going to talk us off that ledge. It's voices or it's nothing at all. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Hopefully I gave you guys some stuff to think about. No black pills. Don't go out in depressed mode, man. We're not going to do that. We're not going to go out on a depressing kind of way. We're going to go out like we always do on the festive side, with a little clutch. Because in my heart of hearts, I believe we're going to get through it. I believe we're going to come out the other side stronger and sharper. And I believe the voices of reason are going to be the ones that pull us back from the brink, and they're going to be the ones that guide where we head going forward. I hope I'm right. Guess we'll see. In the meantime, if we are to go, laughing let us perish, amid laughter let us face our doom. I encourage you guys, man, if you think what I have to say, y'all pass around the digital collection plate on my Cash App, Venmo, Facebook Pay, all that stuff. If you want to throw a little coin. But barring that, the more important part is get out there and spread the word, man. Spread the word. Spread that gospel. Talk to your friends about it and say, hey, man, we got this blue-collar lunatic that goes on an hour-long rant session every Sunday. You might want to check him out. But most of all, on a personal level, each and every one of my guys out there, just remember, we already know, and you can say it with me, be the signal, not the noise. Be the light in the darkness and be that strength. In a world full of weakness, nothing in your life will ever be as important. You want to see that change, be that change. Get yourself right. Get your body strong. Get your mind sharp. Get your voice useful. Be able to articulate the things that need to be said. Spoken word is stronger than the strongest man. You can only kill me once. You can't kill the idea. I give it to you, you give it to the next guy, and guess what? We all still have it. That's why knowledge is the best gift. Knowledge and ideas is the best gift you can give someone, because it's the only thing that you can give away and still have for yourself. So give that gift. Make it a mission every single day. I love you guys. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. See you next Sunday, guys. Peace. Thanks for being here. I love you all, man. I mean that. Wish me luck tomorrow, guys. So, yeah.